Hey, are we live? I think we're live, Linda. Hi.
I see the red light. Hi,
I
how are
see the
you?
red light. I see that we're on. So this is awesome. Hey guys, and the Divorcing Gracefully Beyond community. And Linda, what do you call your community? What's the name for your community?
Well, my business name is Organic Health Journey
All
because
right.
I've been on a health journey organically for years. My group is Fatigue, Thyroid, and Autoimmune Recovery. So either
All
one.
right. So welcome to Linda's community, and we're so glad to have you here today. As usual, this is what are we calling this? Our bi-monthly chat where we're just coming together and just doing all things I would say for quantum leaps, for success, for growth, for health, for relationships, all things life.
I think so. I mean, yeah, that works for me.
Yeah.
I think that we just have a good time talking, and I think it enhances certainly my life, and I think hopefully the people listening. So that's what we do.
All right, Chicky. So what were we talking about? We wanted to talk about finishing our final four, right? That's the title of today's conversation, is finishing these. Now we're halfway through September and going through October and November and December and finishing off as the champion you are meant to be, right? Or actually the champion you are, because I believe we all are champions. It's just sometimes the battlefield of life takes us on the sidelines a little bit, but we're not. We're there. We're in the battle. So this is how we're going to finish the remaining 3 months strong. How we're going to finish the remaining 3 months with power. I would say in our authentic, in our vulnerable, in our courage, in our braveness. All of the pieces of us.
Yeah, I love it. I certainly didn't think of this, but I snagged it. That catchphrase of Final Four, and with
Yes.
the basketball analogy, right? Like March Madness.
We definitely have to give that credit to our friend Sue Crum, right? She was
the one who came up with it. I knew I heard it in our group and in our
conversation. So thank you, Sue. If you're listening to this, we appreciate it.
Yeah, because basketball is my favorite sport. So when she said it, I'm like, oh, I totally love that, and I get that. But March started madness, right, for several months, and we can either finish in the madness or we can really go into these final 4 months like champions, as you said that we are. And so how do we do that? Like, how do we shift gears, because it's still going on to a certain degree for sure, right?
Yeah. And I think 2020 has been one of those years where a lot of people are just giving it a half a star, right? If we had a 5-star rating, 2020 would be those. It definitely was a challenging year. So we could either be attached to the challenge or we could be attached to our dreams, right? And I think, we're either going to fight for our challenges or we're going to fight for our dreams. And I'm on the side of fighting for our dreams. So I am going to take 2020 and really come out of it with trying to achieve my goals, which I know you are too. So that's why we thought we'd come to the table and help you guys who's listening, and everyone who's listening live, and those of you who are listening to the recording is, and I do want to start out with a quote, because something came to me that I thought was very apropos to our conversation today. And it's a quote by Joseph Murphy. And it's, "When the world says it can't be done, the man of disciplined imagination says it's done."
Yeah. I like that.
And I think for me, and I'm going to speak to my own experience, is if I think about something that I want to do and I just sort of think about it, I have a 50% chance of that coming to fruition, right? Okay. If I'm just thinking, it's 50-50. But if I decide that it's done and I'm not going to tolerate anything less, I have 100% chance of it coming to fruition, because that's what I'm deciding. And I'm committed to it, and I have skin in the game. And I think that studies have shown us, and I don't know if you feel or you've done the same research, studies have shown us it's not that we don't set enough goals. It's that we don't set big enough goals. We may set too many little ones that we may not meet. And then what ends up happening is when we don't see the results, like if you go to a gym, right, January 1, a lot of people will say, I'm going to go to or start Weight Watchers, right? That's a big time for people. Wow. And the first of the year is always crowded. Weight Watchers is crowded. The gym is crowded. You can't find a treadmill. I just wait to the second or third week, because by that time, everyone's gone again.
Yeah.
Because it's that pattern and it's that conditioned behavior. So what I like to say is, let's not set the little goals, but let's set the bigger goals, and let's keep to them and stay in the grit and the conditioning of the body to keep going. Right. Because I think Will Smith said that. I don't know if you ever saw the interview on the Universe with Will Smith on his Did you ever hear that interview where he was talking about the universe and manifestation and how he became so successful?
I think so. I listen to him a lot. I really like him. He does great little snippets. He does great big things that I find. I just really like him. So share what you remember.
So what he said was, when he began to become an actor, right before he was famous, he said, I was no different than anybody else. He goes, but the only thing that made me different was I didn't give up. So he says, in the beginning of a casting call for a movie, there may be thousands of people going for this casting call. And then they'll have you do what you have. And then you have to come back the next day, and you have to come back the next day, and you have to come back the next day. And he said every day he would just come back, as tired as he was. Even if he did 23 hours the day before, he would show up the next day. He would show up the next day. And there was an attrition rate, right? So by the time the last day came, it was only between him and other people. So it wasn't like he's like, I didn't get hired necessarily for my talent. He goes, I got hired because I showed up, right? Where most people were staying home and they weren't doing it. And he goes, I was the one. He goes, if I'm on that treadmill, he's like, I am not getting off that treadmill. He's like, I don't care if I'm throwing up. I don't care if I'm, passing. He goes, I am not going to get off that treadmill. And he said, that's what led him to his success, was his just not giving up, which then led him to create these amazing movies that he always saw he always knew he had that in him to be the actor. So I always found that to be quite interesting.
Yeah, I love that. It made me think of when you were speaking, Brene Brown. Do you ever listen to her?
I love Brene Brown, of course. And she just write a new book. I think it's out, Courageous or something. Did I see?
Probably. I was just listening to her. I mean, she's always producing amazing content that forwards people's lives.
Yeah.
But I was just listening to an interview, and this is probably a 2-year-old interview. It's not something recent, but she said, if you already know the outcome, then it's not big enough. Like, if you're not a little bit scared by the outcome, if you already think you know how it's going to turn out, then you're not thinking big enough. And courage doesn't take that. That doesn't take courage.
Yes.
Because you're dealing in the realm of what's already familiar and the limits that you already know yourself to be in. So if you want something bigger than that, courage requires that you don't really know how it's actually going to show up.
So you have to have faith in the gap.
Yes. Yes. But you step into the gap anyway, because you're committed to, something on the other side. But if it's not scary, that a little bit scary to some degree, it's not big.
And I teach this in my coaching, and I guess we're doing a lot of movies and book references today. I guess this is what's coming up. But the Temple of Doom, what was that movie with the Temple of Doom with
Harrison Ford? Was that a Harrison Ford movie?
Yes.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. Thank you. Okay, I was going to lose my mind there for a second. But when he was going to go for the chalice, and they said that he had to have faith because the next step will appear. So now he's at one end of where the cave is, and on the other end is the chalice, and in between it's fire and lava, and and he's looking down, going, "There's no stairs." And he remembered, just have faith, and the next step will appear. And he took that first step, and then a step came up. And then he took the next step, and another step came up. And I think that's us, is that if we could have the courage, as Brene Brown would say, to develop those goals, which which I'm going to go into, which are our 3 tips for today of how to achieve them, right? Number 1 is to set big, bold, audacious goals. Rule number 2 is to change your emotional home. And rule number 3 is extreme ownership. Right. And so, speaking of the goals, setting those big, bold, audacious goals, is when we step in the courage for that, and we have the faith, and we really believe it. We really just not even believe it, but we decide it, that there's no other option, and we're not tolerating any less. That's when the next step appears. And that's when the next step appears. And it may look like in someone's life, they may be at the edge of their seat because they just can't take the way they're feeling, right? With the people that you work with, that they're just so sick and tired of not feeling well. And they know that there's a better way. So they're deciding that they're going to feel better. And then your masterclass may come in their inbox, or a friend of them, they may see someone who says, in the conversation of, oh, hey, here's what I did. And here's, some, and then those little pieces lead us to where we need to go.
And being in tune to that, right? Like noticing when those opportunities show up so that you see it as the next step, right? Because when you are committed to an outcome, things will show up to help you get there. You just have to be open and aware that when they show up, I think.
Yeah, and I think now, and I don't know about you, but now I actually get curious, where before, so now if I say I want something, right? So I'm going to decide that I'm going to manifest X into my life. And now I'm curious of who's going to come in to my life. Who am I going to meet? Or how is it going to show up for me? I'm so now conditioned to not control it and now just really be in the receiver mode, where it wasn't like that in the past. What I did was I felt like I might have kept myself stuck, where I would ask for something, it would come to my plate, and I would be like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe now's not the time, or I'll do it after, or it's too much money, and then I would push it away, and then I would stay stuck. And I would be able to sort of hobble along a little bit until I would get to the breakdown point again. And then I would say, oh my gosh, I really need to do this. I really need the help. I need X, Y. And it would come to my plate and I'd be like, oh, I don't know. Can I do it? And then I would think of another excuse of the reason why. And I think that, what do you think about that? Have you experienced that? Do you notice that in people?
Absolutely. And, especially I think in the realm that I work in health, because it's kind of like, can I really change my health myself? Like, can I do it without a doctor? We're so programmed to, it has to look a certain way.
Yes.
Follow these very conventional steps. But most people, by the time I talk to them, have been following those steps for quite a while and are not getting better. They're not feeling better. So, getting that trust and faith that, like, I can really do that. And you really can. I mean, we really can, cause that by shifting where we're focusing. Right? Focusing, not so much focusing on the how do I force it through, but focusing on being open, and then solutions are going to start to show up. So, but really saying, so again, in the realm of my tribe, I am not willing to live in this diagnosis anymore. So I know you work with folks who are on a transition, or I guess women primarily you do, transition right from marriage. So, I'm not going to stay stuck in this situation and these circumstances. I'm gonna say where I want to go. Carolyn Miss, do you know that author?
Love Carolyn Miss. I do a lot of her training too. She talks about energy vampires, how people just tap into your energy, and she kind of calls us like sockets, where people plug into your energy and sort of sap your energy away. It's like the neighbor who steals your Netflix password or your Wi-Fi password. Now you can't watch TV because they're on your Netflix password and they're under your account, and you're like, dude, what are you doing? I need my Netflix.
Yes. Well, what I was going to reference from her, and it seems like we just listen and read all the same things there, my friend. That must be why we enjoy talking to each other. But she uses the term woundedology, where we speak from a place of being wounded. And then that sort of defines who we are and then our experiences. So if you're speaking from woundedology, the words that you're using is, I have Hashimoto's, or I am sick, or I am divorced, or my marriage ended, or, whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's a wounded way of speaking. And so part of what I'm hearing in your number one suggestion for the rest of this year is to pick a big, bold goal of where you want to go. And then I would say, let's start to change our language around that.
Yes, I love that. You know why? This is, oh my God, I'm so glad you said it. Amelia said, great conversation. Thank you, Amelia. You know why I love that is, it's like you said, I am sick, or I have Hashimoto's, or I don't feel well. Where I like to say, especially in my tribe, is divorce doesn't define you, or relationship. Because I even work with women who are married who want to create the best relationship with themselves and their life and their spouse. Because it's marriage or being, it doesn't really matter. It's the relationship we have for ourselves that are going to really inherently going to have you living your best life and achieving everything. Because it's about health, it's about wealth, it's about our jobs, it's about every single piece of us. But I like to say, I am brilliant. I am amazing. God does not make mistakes. He didn't start with me. I am a brilliant human being. I have a challenge with my divorce. right? My divorce or what I've been through, or my relationship with my husband, or my relationship with my mother, or whatever my relationship with myself is a challenge. And the reason why I say I don't say it's hard or we can't do it is because that automatically puts our subconscious to the breaks where there's no solution possible, where the challenge is, let me get in there. There's a solution, right? So if we begin, like, set that big, bold, audacious goal, and then begin to step into the identity of, I am brilliant, I am strong, I make great decisions, I have the ability to achieve anything in my life.
Right.
When you're not identifying as someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's sister, as the disease, as the divorce, as the sadness, right? Like the gentleman from The Shack, who wrote The Shack, he talks about the great sadness, about how so many of us are walking around that we can't see it, but there's this great sadness around us.
Yes.
And it's time to get rid of that great sadness and step into the big, bold, audacious goals. And like Brene Brown said, have it ripple you, right? Have it like, oh my gosh, can I do this? Is this possible for me? Because that's where it's going to be. The bar is going to be there. All right. So let's move on to changing your emotional home, because that's rule number 2 in achieving and getting to the champion you are for the remaining 3 months. So I know you wanted to talk about this. So
I did, because if anybody from my friends and family are watching, I just picked up mums. So I have a dear friend who provides mums for a group of us. She just buys them every year from for a garden club sale. And I just picked them up. And so the mums for me, so first of all, the transition from the end of summer into fall is my favorite time of year.
Me too. That's another reason why we probably like talking to each other.
I'm one of those dorks that always love to go back to school. I love school.
I don't meet you there. I never wanted to go back to school, but I definitely enjoyed I love putting on a pair of jeans and a sweater and the pumpkins and
I love apples. I love when it's still warm out during the day, but it's not stiflingly hot and it gets cool at night. So the mums, that starts to change my emotional home. So let me just identify that as your emotional home is the maybe 6 to 8 emotions where you spend most of your time, right? And in any given moment, you can notice, where's my emotional home? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Like, do you wake up into overwhelm? Do you wake up into resentment? Do you wake up into judgment of yourself or other people, right? So being aware of your emotional home. So I just picked up these mums and I'm driving home and and it was the option you can see of go get the mums or do my hair for this conversation.
Well, I did the same thing this morning. I took Casey for a walk in the rain. So guys, this is the surfer hair. I hope everyone likes it, but this is what it looks like when I get out of the water and I just do that, because literally that's what happened. I was
there you go. So mine's mum hair right now, but I don't care because I got my mums in front of my porch. And then I'm driving home and I've got Elvis Presley. So I have a playlist. And I call it Awesome on Amazon. It's my playlist of awesome. And it's all the songs, like my 8th grade dance song.
I love it. Love it. Yes.
You know, the songs when I played basketball. Basketball is my favorite sport. And I used to play basketball in high school. And what the songs we would be blaring on the bus are on my playlist of awesome, right? So when that playlist goes on, because if I could turn on the radio and it might pick me up, but when this playlist goes on, I shift out of wherever I am into someplace better. So like I just posted Elvis Presley. So caught in a gap.
I love it. Yes, I love it. We should just do our dance. Woo! I always say step into our superpower. Let's dance. And I totally can't dance, but it's fun to dance. I said dancing does me ugly.
But the point is, it gets you out of a place, especially if, there's the news. The news puts us in a certain place, and I'm not going into politics at all, but I know who I'm going to vote for. So I don't need to listen to the news every day. I know, right? So to listen to all of that day in, day out does something to my spirit.
Absolutely. That it's toxic. It's the news, the radio, like even, it's just the newspaper,
right?
Your news feed of all the news things that are coming up, right? And
so I think taking care of your emotional home means avoiding the things that you know are a problem for you, the things that upset you. It might be if you're divorced or getting divorced, you know, maybe input from that partner that you need to be separating from.
She agrees with us, by the way. She's agreeing. That's her way to say, I totally agree with you guys.
We would be like, if we were there in the same place, we'd be laying on the bed with her, like talking to her, with the dog, like listening. But, you know, so avoiding, taking out the things that pull you down and keep your emotional home in those lower energy levels, those energy levels of angry or hurt or resentful or sick, right? And then putting in your music, your soundtrack of awesome. Also laughing, like watching comedy every so often. So I don't know, what would you add to that? Picking up a mom's. So now, because I know
it's all of that. Yeah, all of that. I find that if we could touch upon all the senses, right? It's what we listen to. It's the smells. Yeah, and that the sense, you know. And I use doTERRA essential oils, and right here you do too, right? And I just, you know, I put on some I forgot which one I put on, but it's just lively, like, so it smells good. Like, you know, seeing the mums, so all of those pieces come together. And one of the things that I also wanted to add to that is the absolute science in that what we think about and what we do absolutely affects our life 100%, right? This is, so it's that emotional home that you're living in is asking yourself, which house are you living in, right? Are you living in your house of joy, of gratitude, of it's already done? Remember how we spoke about that earlier? We're not saying if my goal gets done, it's done. Now we just have to allow the universe to manifest it. We're not in this wishy-washy space. And what I also like to sort of just add to that is most of us may not yet have learned to use or to develop the emotional resilience muscle where we're not victim to the environment, we're the master of cause. So most people will identify and they will say, if things are going good and life is changing for the positive, they have a great life. If things are going bad and life is changing for the not so good, they have a terrible life. But it's our life isn't based upon the circumstance of the day. And if it is based on the circumstance of the day, you're going to be up and down like the wind and never knowing your emotional home. And it's going to be very hard to feel good and to get into joy because you're all over the place. But if you decide, like my decision is, I decide I have a great life, that I'm living life to the best of my ability, that I find joy and I find gratitude. And if something comes across my plate that day that isn't necessarily on the good side, I could be crying about it. I could have a challenge on it. I could be in my corner, just not sure what I'm going to do. I'm not avoiding it, but I'm not going to let it define that I don't have a good life. What I'm going to say is I have a challenge on my plate and I have a great life. My life isn't dependent on my emotion. My life is dependent upon my decision of what I'm deciding.
And it's important when those challenges come up, I think, to feel those emotions, right? So we're not saying always be positive. Like,
this is not about positivity. No.
No. Right.
So I mean, positivity is good, but we're not, I'm not saying just be positive and everything's great. And, you get this tragic news and you're like, okay, I'm just going to think positive. No, it's, you want to feel and experience the emotion, whatever it is.
Yes.
If it's joy, if it's grief, if it's fear, if it's worry, it's okay to feel the emotion. The thing is that we just don't want to buy a house on that street, right? If we're going through grief, we don't want to be, okay, we're going to buy a house. We're going to say, we're just driving by, right? We're doing a real estate drive-by. I don't know how many of you like to do that. That's one of my favorite pastimes is, which before COVID, I like to just drive by and look at houses and go in and see. It was just kind of cute.
Yeah.
Right. But, so we don't want to buy a house on the street, and we don't want to be emotionally dependent of our environment. We want to be emotionally independent of our environment.
There's a saying that I often say sometimes when I'm working with my clients on this topic, and it is, a ship that's out in the ocean and a storm comes up. The ship that sinks is going to be the one that lets the water in.
That's right.
The ship that's going to survive the storm is the one that rides through the storm.
Yeah.
Staying intact without letting the water in. So to me, that means without letting all of the external circumstances in. So saying, I'm going to be who I'm going to be, and I'm going to stay on my purpose and in my life and what I want to be true to, regardless of the storm around me.
You're rooted in your identity. You're not rooted in the emotion. And I think that's what's so critical, is that just because your brain thinks something, number one, doesn't mean it's true. And number one, doesn't mean you need to believe it. And three, it doesn't mean you need to internalize it.
Right.
Your brain is just doing its job, keeping your body alive. That's its job. And those thoughts and those feelings and those emotions are just natural components, but those aren't our guides. So it's our job to sort of take that and understand that feelings aren't facts, they're feelings. And we don't want to base our life and our identity on our feelings, because they change.
Right.
They change all the time. All right. So let's go on to rule number 3, which is extreme ownership.
Okay.
What do you have to say about that, Miss Linda?
Well, it kind of summarizes a lot of what we've said, which is taking ownership of your life, yourself, saying, I'm going to be at cause and own my life no matter what circumstances show up, even when I don't have control over them. Yep. My partner decides that this marriage is over. I don't have control over that. I'm guessing that that could happen with your people, so I'm using it as an example, right? If that happens, I'm going to own my life anyway. And part of that means, where can I be responsible that happened?
Yeah, I think it's self-responsibility. And going back to the whole ship metaphor, right, is we are the captain of our ship.
Yeah.
We are the superhero of our life. And if anytime you're not happy, or anytime that you're feeling your cup isn't being full, or anytime that you're feeling like a little disjointed, yes, if you have a partner or other people, of course, we want them to fill our cup, but it's not their responsibility to fill our cup. It's our responsibility to fill our cup. And it's our spouses or our partners or our friends or our family, to maybe add 2%, right? Or 3%, because we're human beings. We love people. We engage with other people. We become our best with other people around us. We only know what we know. So we rise up when we're around other people, but it's our job. And the one thing that I will say is, if there's something that really makes you happy, don't wait for someone else to do it. Take extreme ownership and do it. Like for myself, I happen to love flowers, and I happen to love fall flowers now that are here, like sunflowers and things like that. They're just so beautiful. And my husband knows I love flowers, but if I would wait for him to buy me flowers, I would have no flowers ever. And it's not like he never buys me flowers, but I've made it my commitment that every week I go and I buy myself a new bouquet of flowers, because I love it. I like the way it looks. I love the way it smells. So I take extreme ownership of that part of my happiness.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just a small example. And it could be something on your side with, the extreme ownership of not allowing someone else to drive the seat of their life, that they're going to take extreme ownership to do what it takes to get themselves the healthiest that they've been, to set the mindset and the commitment and the time to do that. Because extreme ownership, I don't know about you, but when I step into extreme ownership, it's not necessarily difficult, because I don't think it's not necessarily hard, but I think it's the mindset and the commitment to the outcome and carrying it through is what I find my challenge to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other piece of that is, so that's talking about extreme ownership going forward. I also think that it's important to have ownership about what's happened.
Oh, in the past, you're talking. With
autoimmunity. And this is a hard pill to swallow. Like, really, I contributed to an autoimmune disease, but I did 4 of them. Not just
in relationships, though, right? It's the same thing in how we're showing up in our life with the relationship is, you are the common denominator.
Exactly.
And it's not to say anything's your fault. But you did have a responsibility of where your life is up until this point. And you did have input until where your life is in this point. And that's the beauty of, I guess, getting into that awakened seat of the soul, is we're not looking at this, or at least I don't look at my past as, you're a bad girl, you did something wrong, how could you have done this? I look at my past and saying, okay, what served me from my past? What didn't serve me?
Right.
What did I learn? What can I do better? Where can I take responsibility and accountability and say, yep, you know what? I could have done better in that area. Absolutely could have done better. And now I'm going to do better because now I know better. I can do better.
Yeah.
And then I give myself the gift of forgiveness and give that part of my life a funeral, let it go. And now I could step into the glory and the beauty of the day.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the great sadness is around us.
Yeah. I just think it's important for people because I think a lot of times, well, our culture has body and emotions as two separate things. And so when our body starts to not work so well, we don't really recognize the impact that we had on that choices that we made for the last 20 years have a big thing to do with that. And so that's that extreme ownership.
I guess it's also not the blaming, right? It's not your mother's fault. It's not your father's fault. It's not your spouse's fault.
It's not my genetics.
It's not your genetics fault. Like, I think everything plays a role and everything is contributing to the whole. But at the end of the day, you know, I think you get stuck. That's how healing doesn't happen, is when you're stuck in the blame.
Right.
Versus taking extreme ownership and you are the boss. And I have written here, you are the only cause in your universe. You are the only cause in your universe. So on the good news side is that when you understand that, now think about what we could do for our future.
Right.
Right. Let's recap. So rule number 1 is to set big, bad, audacious goals. Rule number 2 is changing your emotional home. And then rule number 3 is taking that extreme ownership. And guys, this is what's going to get you to the champion who you are. This is what's going to get you to the next 3 months. So Linda, I know you had something you're doing to finish out the year. So do you want to share that with the tribes and let them know what's going on?
So, you know, coming from a health perspective, it's like, after all these months of kind of being in our house and not feeling great and you know, not having maybe the best foods if people got whatever about stuff. So I'm doing a metabolic reset challenge that's going to start not next week, but the following week. And it's going to be 3 months of all the whole food part is done. Shopping list, menus, recipes for 3 months, weekly coaching. And then there's also some supplements that are just support like your gut and detoxification and stuff like that. It's not vitamins, but to support that. So it's not for people it's not like this will really change the game in terms of autoimmunity. It's more for anyone who just wants to reset and go into the end of the year feeling strong. So I'm going to be posting information the rest of this week and next week about that. And people will see where they can sign up. And then that'll be 3 months just to really let's turn this year around.
I agree. And guys, I have something very exciting too, because I only do this once this time of year. And this is it. This is one of those things that the doors open and the doors close. And that's the only time you could join it. So I have something that's called Divorcing Gracefully and Beyond Boot Camp. And this is really for any woman. You could be married, you could be divorced, you could be in a good relationship, you could be in a bad relationship. What the whole program is about is learning, really resetting the relationship with yourself, really kind of taking back a little bit of that control back to you, bringing the attention and the focus back to you, developing the best possible relationship you can have with yourself, because that's going to emanate. That's like good soil. That's going to bring good things to you. That's going to bring good people to you. That's going to bring promotion to you. It's going to bring health and wealth because you're going to be able to see and experience things that you haven't done before. So that runs October 1 through December 31. And it's the same thing. It's life coaching. You have your own portal that you're going to be going through. It's a community, but it really is that reset. And it's that rebirth, and it's the reclaiming of the brilliance of you. See, so many of us, we've lost our brilliance, and it's not that it's time to reclaim that brilliance and fall in love with the most important person. And that's yourself.
Awesome.
So that's what I'm doing. Yeah. So that's Divorcing Gracefully Beyond Boot Camp. Linda, where can they find more about you?
Organichealthjourney.
I'll get this. We did this 3 weeks already, but one of these days I'll get it.
That's okay. Organic Health Journey is the business page. They can go on the business page. They can send me a message there on the business page. I do have a website, organichealthjourney.com. I just am not, don't do the .com. I just don't go to the website that often. Just maybe Just the business page is Organic Health Journey on Facebook.
Okay, so guys, just don't go to the .com. Just go to find her on Organic Health Journey on Facebook. And for those of you who want to know more about the boot camp, because that's going to be so much fun. And again, it's a open the door, close the door, 3 months of awesomeness, reclaiming your brilliance. And this is where you could go to donnaredowitz.com. There's a place you could schedule a call with me and pick a time that makes sense. And I'll fill you in on all of the info. So, all right, guys, again, another amazing conversation. Yay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, I'll see you later, alligator. Bye, guys. Bye. We love everybody. Have a great rest of the day. And let's finish the year strong, guys.
Absolutely.
This is your challenge, should you choose to accept it. All right.